The emergency lights flashed red across the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in worried silence as they watched the holographic display, showing a strange purple cloud growing larger by the second. The quantum anomaly had already swallowed 3 uninhabited systems, and it was expanding toward populated worlds. Council Leader Gray, a tall being with silver skin, stood at the central platform. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We need immediate action. The anomaly threatens everything in its path. Who will step forward to investigate and stop this threat?" The warrior races were always the first to boast about their courage. The room filled with muttering as the representatives of the galaxy's most feared species looked at each other uncomfortably. Rock Master Thunder, leader of the Stone Crushers, a species known for fighting barehanded against battle tanks, crossed his massive arms. "There is no glory in studying a cloud," he growled. "My people fight real enemies, not space weather." The Fire Wings, burning creatures who lived inside stars, simply flickered their flames in dismissal. Their ambassador's voice crackled like a dying campfire. "We see no honor in such a mission. Let someone else handle this scientific matter." One by one, the warrior races made their excuses. Some claimed their ships weren't suitable. Others said their weapons would be useless against an anomaly. Many simply stated that such a mission was beneath their dignity. In the far corner of the chamber, Captain James Miller of the Earth exploration vessel Prudence sat quietly, taking notes on his tablet. The human section was always placed in the back, away from the braver species. Earth had only joined the Council 15 years ago, and most alien races saw humans as embarrassingly cautious. Miller looked at the hologram carefully. The anomaly's pattern seemed familiar to him, like something he'd studied in Earth's deep space exploration manuals. He checked his ship's safety protocols on his tablet, running quick calculations. The Council leader's voice now carried a note of desperation. "Will no one investigate this threat? Must we wait until it reaches populated systems?" Miller stood up. The movement was so quiet and careful that at first, nobody noticed. He cleared his throat politely. "Earth would like to volunteer for this mission." The chamber erupted in laughter. A warrior from the Steel Bite clan actually fell out of his seat, his metallic teeth clanking against the floor as he roared with amusement. "The humans," someone shouted. "The ones who spend 6 months planning before entering an empty star system. The same humans who wear 3 different types of spacesuits at once." Another voice mocked. Council Leader Gray raised his hand for silence, but even he couldn't keep the doubt from his voice. "Captain Miller, while we appreciate the offer, this mission requires immediate action. We are familiar with Earth's extensive safety protocols." Miller stood straighter. "My ship can be ready in 12 hours. We have already studied similar phenomena in simulations. The Prudence carries the most advanced sensing equipment in the galaxy, specifically because we believe in understanding before engaging." 12 hours. Rock Master Thunder laughed. "A true warrior would leave immediately." "And what would this true warrior do upon arriving?" Miller asked calmly. "The anomaly has already destroyed everything that touched it. We've all seen the readings. My crew will approach with proper preparations, or we won't approach at all." The chamber grew quiet. The hologram continued to pulse, its purple tendrils reaching further into space with each passing minute. Council Leader Gray looked around the chamber one last time, hoping for another volunteer. Finding none, he turned to Miller. "Very well, Captain. The mission is yours, but remember, time is critical." Miller nodded, already sending instructions to his crew through his tablet. "We understand the urgency, Council Leader, but we also understand that rushing in without proper preparation isn't bravery, it's suicide. The Prudence will depart in 12 hours, ready for every possible scenario we can plan for." As Miller left the chamber, the laughter and mockery followed him. He didn't mind. Let them laugh. His crew would do this the human way. Carefully, methodically, and most importantly, successfully. After all, as the old Earth saying went, Better a living coward than a dead hero. The crew of the Prudence worked with practiced efficiency as alien observers watched from the space station's observation deck. First Officer Robert Hayes stood at his station, checking off items on his tablet as each safety protocol was completed. "Look at them," a fire-wing observer crackled, his flame body flickering with amusement. "They're testing their backup systems for the 4th time." Through the observation window, they could see the Prudence's crew loading specialized drones into launch bays. Each drone underwent 3 separate inspection cycles before being approved for loading. The process was slow, methodical, and according to the warrior races, absolutely hilarious. Inside the ship, Captain Miller walked through the corridors, checking on his crew. He stopped at engineering, where Chief Engineer Lisa Turner was running simulations on a large screen. "How are the quantum shields coming along?" Miller asked. Turner pointed to the screen, where complex patterns shifted and changed. "We've run 57 different scenarios. The shields should hold against any quantum fluctuation we've been able to predict. But," she paused, fingers flying over her keyboard, "I'd like to run 10 more simulations, just to be sure." Miller nodded. "Do it. Better to spend an extra hour testing than an extra lifetime being dead." The ship's intercom crackled. "Captain," Hayes called, "the Stone Crushers are requesting permission to observe our preparation procedures. They say they want to." He paused, clearly reading from a message. "Witness this extraordinary display of cowardice." "Permission granted," Miller replied calmly. "They might learn something." A group of massive gray-skinned stone crushers stomped onto the bridge minutes later. Their leader, a scared veteran named Crash, watched as the human crew ran through their checklists. "Why do you check everything so many times?" Crash demanded, his voice like grinding rocks. "Our warriors would have already reached the anomaly by now." Hayes looked up from his station. "Probably. And they would have already been destroyed by it, just like everything else that got too close." "You dare question our bravery?" Crash growled. "No," Hayes replied, still checking his lists. "Just your survival rate." In the drone bay, technicians were programming the last of their remote units. Each drone carried different sensors, shields, and testing equipment. The stone crushers watched in disbelief as the humans loaded drone after drone. "You send machines to do your fighting?" one warrior asked, disgusted. The lead technician shrugged. "We send machines to do our dying. We prefer to do our fighting when we know what we're fighting against." After 10 hours of preparation, Turner called from engineering. "Captain, I've completed all 70 simulations. I found 3 more possible shield configurations that might help against extreme quantum fluctuations." "Implement them all," Miller ordered. "How long?" 1 hour to install and test." From the observation deck, the alien warriors groaned collectively. The Firewing ambassador sent an angry message to Miller's screen. "This delay is unacceptable. While you hide behind your tests and simulations, the anomaly grows." Miller sent back a simple reply. "It's better to arrive ready than to arrive dead." In the final hour, the crew ran through their emergency procedures one last time. Each crew member knew exactly what to do in 20 different disaster scenarios. Their escape pods were checked, their backup systems were tested, and their emergency protocols were fresh in their minds. As the 12-hour mark approached, Captain Miller gathered his crew for a final briefing. "I know they're all watching," he said, looking at each crew member. "I know they're laughing. But I also know this. Every ship that went into that anomaly without proper preparation is now gone. We're going to do this our way. The human way." He pointed to the main screen, where the purple anomaly pulsed menacingly. "They call us cowards because we take precautions. They mock us because we value preparation. But at the end of this mission, we'll be something they've never managed to be." Hayes smiled. "Alive?" Miller nodded. "Exactly. Now let's show them how cowards get things done." The Prudence's engines hummed to life, its triple-checked systems running perfectly. As they pulled away from the station, The alien observers watched in bemused silence. None of them expected the humans to succeed. But then again, none of them had survived an encounter with the anomaly either. The Prudence approached the edge of the danger zone, its engines running at 1/4 power. Behind them, at what they considered a safe distance, 5 alien ships watched. The Firewing's solar ship blazed like a small star, while the Stone Crusher's heavy battle cruiser loomed like a floating mountain. "They're taking bets on how long we'll last," Hayes reported from his station, reading the incoming transmissions. "The longest bet is 30 minutes. Captain Miller stood at the center of the bridge, watching the main screen where the purple anomaly swirled like an angry storm. "Let them bet. Launch the first drone wave." From the Prudence's drone bays, 12 small crafts shot out in perfect formation. Each one carried different sensors and was shielded in a unique way. The crew watched in silence as the drones approached the anomaly's edge. First drone entering the outer layer in 3, 2, 1. Turner counted down from her engineering station. The lead drone crossed into the purple haze. For a moment, nothing happened. Then its readings began flooding the Prudence's computers. "Quantum fluctuations are off the charts," Turner reported, her fingers dancing across her controls. "The drone's shields are holding. But wait," she frowned at her readings. "This isn't natural. These patterns are artificial." Before Miller could respond, 3 alien ships suddenly accelerated past the Prudence, heading straight for the anomaly. "The Stone Crushers and Firewings are moving in," Hayes announced. "They're saying they won't let humans show more courage than them. All ships, halt immediately." Miller broadcast on all frequencies. "Our readings show." But it was too late. The alien ships plunged into the purple clouds. For a few seconds, their energy signatures remained strong on the Prudence's sensors. Then, one by one, they began to flicker. "Their shields are failing," Turner reported grimly. "The quantum fluctuations are tearing their ships apart at the atomic level." Miller grabbed the ship-wide comm. "Launch rescue drones. Full emergency protocols." The Prudence's rear bays opened, releasing specialized rescue drones equipped with the strongest shields they had developed. The drones raced toward the struggling alien ships, extending energy tethers. "Firewing's ship is gone," Hayes reported, his voice tight. "Just disappeared. Stone Crusher's ship is breaking up. The third ship, no signal." On the main screen, they watched as the rescue drones reached the Stone Crusher's ship just as its hull began to crack. Energy tethers latched on, and the drones began pulling with all their power. "Their hull integrity is at 12%, Turner called out. "The quantum field is destroying their atomic bonds. 10 seconds to complete structural failure." Miller gripped his chair. "Divert emergency power to the rescue drone's tether beams." The Prudence's lights dimmed as power surged to the drones. With a final burst of energy, they yanked the Stone Crusher's ship free of the anomaly's grasp. The massive vessel tumbled through space, its hull glowing with strange purple energy, but it was intact enough to survive. "Get them to safe distance," Miller ordered, "and contact the remaining observation ships. Tell them to stay back until we complete our sensor readings." The bridge was quiet except for the hum of equipment and the steady stream of data from the surviving sensor drones. The alien ships that had stayed back no longer transmitted mocking messages. Hayes looked at his captain. "Sir, the Stone Crushers are hailing us." On screen, Crash's face appeared, his gray skin now painted with glowing purple lines. His voice was weak but clear. You saved us. When we rushed in like fools, you saved us." Miller nodded. "That's why we prepare. Not because we're cowards, but because we respect the dangers we face." "The others," Crash looked away. "They're really gone." "Yes, I'm sorry we couldn't save them too." The Stone Crusher warrior was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "What did your drones discover? What is this thing?" Miller looked at the purple anomaly swirling on his screen. "Something artificial, something made. And now, thanks to our careful approach, We know enough to maybe stop it. He turned to his crew. This is why we plan. This is why we prepare. And this is how humanity will solve this crisis, one careful step at a time. Captain, you need to see this. Turner's voice carried an edge of excitement as she called Miller to the science lab. The wall screens showed complex patterns taken from the sensor drone's data. Look at these energy signatures. They're not random at all. Miller studied the scrolling numbers and shifting patterns. Behind him, Hayes and the recovered Stone Crusher leader Crash watched intently. The alien's purple scars still glowed faintly. It's a pattern, Turner explained, highlighting sections of data. The quantum fluctuations repeat every 18 minutes. Natural phenomena don't do that. A weapon? Crash growled, his voice still rough from his near-death experience. Better send in another drone wave, Miller ordered. But this time, let's look for artificial structures. The Prudence launched its second wave of drones, these ones programmed to search for signs of technology within the purple clouds. The crew watched tensely as the small machines disappeared into the anomaly. First drone reaching the inner layer, Hayes reported from his station. Second drone following. Wait. He leaned forward. There's something solid in there. The main screen lit up with the drone's feed. Through the purple haze, they could make out a massive structure. It was clearly ancient, its surface covered in strange markings that pulsed with the same purple energy as the anomaly. It's some kind of machine, Turner said, her fingers flying over her console. The energy readings suggest it's at least 10,000 years old. And it's... Suddenly, one of the drones sparked and vanished. Quantum cascade, Turner shouted. The machine just released a massive energy pulse. Pull the other drones back, Miller ordered. Full emergency withdrawal. The remaining drones reversed course, but 2 more vanished before they could escape the pulse. However, their sensors had already sent back crucial data. Sir, Hayes said, studying his readings, if that pulse had hit a crewed ship. He glanced at Crash, leaving the thought unfinished. The Stone Crusher warrior nodded grimly. Like my brothers who rushed in. They would have been torn apart instantly. Miller called up the drone footage on his personal screen. The markings on that machine. Turner, can you enhance this section? The image zoomed in, showing complex symbols etched into the ancient device's surface. Turner gasped. Captain, those look like warning signs. This thing is covered in them. A weapon test site, Crash rumbled. From some ancient war. Left behind to guard something, perhaps. Or a failed experiment, Hayes suggested. Something went wrong. And it's been building power ever since. Miller studied the footage carefully. Look at how the energy pulses match the warning symbols. It's not just a weapon. It's trying to warn people away. The quantum fluctuations are like a fence around a dangerous area. A fence that's growing, Turner added. The power buildup is causing the containment field to expand. That's why it's threatening populated systems now. Crash slammed his stone fist into his palm. Then we must destroy it. Call in the battle fleets. No, Miller said firmly. Look what happened to your ship. And that was just from the outer edge. A direct attack would be suicide. We need to understand it first. He turned to Turner. How long can we safely observe before the next quantum cascade? Based on the pattern. 16 minutes. But Captain, she highlighted a new set of readings. The pulses are getting stronger. If we don't find a way to shut this thing down soon, the next populated system in its path won't stand a chance. Miller nodded. Send all our data to the Council. They need to start evacuating nearby systems, just in case. In the meantime, he looked at his crew. We have 16 minutes to learn everything we can about this machine. Let's make every second count. Hayes smiled slightly, carefully and methodically. Is there any other way? Miller replied. Launch the next drone wave. Different sensors, different angles. Let's solve this puzzle before it's too late. As they worked, Even Crash had stopped making comments about human cowardice. He watched in silence as the crew of the Prudence methodically gathered data that might save billions of lives. Red alert klaxons blared through the Prudence's corridors. On the main screen, the ancient machine's purple glow had turned into an angry, pulsing crimson. Energy levels rising exponentially. Turner shouted from her station. The containment field is collapsing. Captain Miller gripped his chair as the ship shuddered from another quantum wave. Status of the evacuation ships. The Council sent every available transport to the threatened systems, Hayes reported, his fingers dancing across his console. But they need more time. There are still millions of people in the danger zone. The remaining alien observation ships began turning away from the anomaly. Their panic was clear in their hurried transmissions. "They're running," Crash growled from his temporary station. The Stonecrusher warrior had insisted on staying aboard the Prudence, saying his people always repaid their debts, just like everyone runs when things get difficult. Miller watched as another quantum cascade rippled through space, larger than any before. The ancient machine was now clearly visible through the thinning purple haze, its surface crackling with barely contained energy. "Sir," Turner's voice was urgent. "These readings, the machine isn't just failing. It's building up to something bigger. If these calculations are right, when it finally overloads." She sent the data to the main screen. The predicted explosion would consume everything within 3 light years. 2 populated systems were within that range. Hayes looked up from his station. "Captain, the Council is ordering all ships to abandon the sector. They're saying—" He paused, reading the message twice. "They're saying the systems are lost. They're giving up." Miller stood up, watching the screens carefully. The simulations they'd run, the data they'd gathered, all the careful preparation. It had to be worth something. "Turner," he called out, "remember Simulation 42, the one where we modeled containing a quantum cascade?" The engineer's eyes widened. "Yes, but that was just a theory. We've never tested it in real conditions." "We've tested everything else," Miller said firmly. "Every drill, every scenario. We didn't spend all that time preparing just to run away when things got hard." He turned to his crew. "This is what we trained for. This is why we take precautions. Not so we can run away, but so we can act when it matters most." The ship shook again as another wave hit them. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Engineering reports shield strength at 60%, Hayes announced. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast." Miller nodded. "Implement Containment Protocol 42. Launch all remaining drones. Configure them exactly as in the simulation." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, their previous drills paying off as each person knew exactly what to do. The Prudence's drone bays opened one last time, releasing every drone they had left. "Drones launching in formation," Turner reported. "Quantum shields at maximum. Beginning containment pattern." On the main screen, they watched as the drones formed a complex geometric pattern around the ancient machine. Each drone activated its specially modified shield, creating a web of controlled quantum fields. "It's working," Turner exclaimed. "The drones are creating a stable containment bubble. The machine's energy is being redirected back on itself." But their success was far from certain. 3 drones overloaded and vanished. The remaining ones struggled to maintain the containment field. "Shields failing on drones 7 and 12, Hayes reported tensely. "The field is becoming unstable." Miller watched the energy readings climb higher. They were so close. After all their preparation, all their careful planning, it came down to this moment. "Reroute emergency power to the drone control systems," he ordered. "Every scrap of energy we can spare. We didn't come all this way to fail now." As the Prudence poured its power into the drones, the alien observation ships watched from a safe distance. They had expected the humans to run like everyone else. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The bridge of the Prudence was eerily quiet despite the chaos unfolding on their screens. Every crew member focused intently on their tasks as the containment field fluctuated around the ancient machine. Drone 13 just failed, Turner reported, her voice steady despite the tension. We're routing power through the remaining network. Captain Miller watched as the geometric pattern of drones shifted, automatically adjusting to cover the gap. All those hours of running simulations were paying off. The containment field held steady despite the loss. Captain, Hayes called out, I'm detecting changes in the machine's energy signature. The quantum fluctuations are becoming more regular. Crash stood behind Turner's station, his stone-like features showing unusual concern. Is that good or bad? Neither, Turner answered, studying the readings. It's responding to our containment field. The machine. It's like it recognizes what we're trying to do. Miller leaned forward in his chair. Explain. The warning symbols we found, Turner said, bringing up the drone footage. They weren't just warnings, they were instructions. The ancients who built this thing, they must have had safety protocols too. The ship shuddered as another energy wave hit them, but the shields held firm. Years of paranoid over-engineering were keeping them alive. Look at these patterns, Turner continued, highlighting sections of the ancient text. They match our containment field almost exactly. We're not just containing it. We're speaking its language. Hayes swiveled in his chair. Are you saying we accidentally recreated their safety system? Not accidentally, Miller corrected him. We did what they did. We planned for the worst. We thought about safety first. He turned to Turner. Can we use this? Can we communicate with the machine? Turner's fingers flew across her console. Maybe. If I reconfigure the drone network to match these symbols exactly. She paused, double-checking her calculations. Yes, but we'll need to get closer. Closer? Crash rumbled. My ship was torn apart at twice this distance. Your ship didn't have 3 layers of quantum shielding, Hayes replied with a small smile, or a crew that spent weeks preparing for exactly this kind of situation. Miller stood up. Take us in. Nice and slow, just like we practiced. The Prudence moved forward carefully, its enhanced shields glowing as they deflected the quantum waves. Around them, the drone network continued its complex dance, maintaining the containment field while adjusting to match the ancient symbols. Engineering reports shield strength at 40%, Hayes announced. 35, 30. Almost there, Turner muttered, her eyes fixed on her readings. The machine's energy signature is stabilizing. It's recognizing the pattern. Through the main viewport, they could now see the ancient device clearly. Its surface was covered in pulsing lines that matched the geometry of their drone network perfectly. Quantum cascade building, Hayes warned. This could be bad. But Turner smiled. No, look at the energy pattern. It's not random anymore. The machine is sensing with our containment field. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the angry red glow of the machine began to fade, returning to its original purple hue. The violent quantum waves settled into a gentle pulse. It's working, Turner whispered. The machine is accepting our containment protocol. It's resetting itself. Miller allowed himself a small breath of relief. Status of the evacuation ships. All populated systems report their evacuations are complete, Hayes reported. They didn't think we could hold it this long. They're calling it a miracle. Not a miracle, Miller corrected. Just good planning. Crash shook his massive head in amazement. My people would have tried to destroy it. The fire wings would have tried to overpower it. But you spoke to it. With safety protocols. Sometimes, Miller said, watching as the ancient machine's energy levels continued to stabilize, the bravest thing you can do is take your time and do things right. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from every species crowded the seats, while screens showed the faces of countless others watching from their homeworlds. At the center of the platform stood Captain Miller and his crew, along with their unlikely ally, Crash. Council Leader Gray raised his hands for silence. We are here today to acknowledge something unprecedented. The human crew of the Prudence not only contained the quantum anomaly, but also discovered and restored an ancient safety system that will prevent such incidents in the future. The chamber erupted in applause, very different from the mocking laughter that had filled it just weeks ago. "Tell us, Captain Miller," Gray continued, "how does it feel to have saved billions of lives?" Miller stepped forward to the speaking platform. "With all respect, Council Leader, we didn't do anything special. We simply followed proper safety protocols." A murmur ran through the crowd. Crash stepped forward, his purple scars now faded but still visible. "You call it nothing special, but your caution saved my life when my people's bravery would have killed us all." Turner joined them at the platform, holding up a data tablet. The ancient machine was built by a species that thought like us. They believed in backup systems, in careful planning, in finding safe solutions. Their warning symbols weren't just alerts. They were a test. She displayed the translated symbols on the massive chamber screens. They wanted to make sure that only a species with the right approach could access their technology. They were looking for a civilization that valued safety and preparation over brute force and blind courage. Hayes added from his position. In other words, they were looking for cowards like us. This brought laughter from the chamber, but it was warm and appreciative rather than mocking. Council Leader Gray raised a hand again. "The Council has reviewed your ship's logs, your preparation, your simulations, your multiple backup plans. What some called excessive caution saved countless lives. Perhaps," he looked around the chamber, "perhaps we have misunderstood what true courage means." Miller shook his head. "There's nothing wrong with being brave. Nothing wrong with being willing to fight. But there's also nothing wrong with being careful, with taking precautions, with wanting to survive. True courage isn't about rushing in. It's about stepping up when others won't, however you need to do it." The Council Leader nodded slowly. "And that is why we have reached a decision. From this day forward, all Council ships will be required to maintain human-level safety protocols. Additionally, Earth will be given a seat on the Council's Safety and Emergency Response Committee." More applause filled the chamber. Miller could see some of the warrior races looking uncomfortable, but even they couldn't deny the results. Furthermore, Gray continued, "The ancient technology you discovered will be studied, carefully and methodically, using human safety protocols. Who knows what other tests await us in the galaxy? We must be prepared." As the ceremony concluded, Crash approached Miller one last time. "My people have a saying. Only the mighty deserve respect. Today, we change it. Today we say, the mighty deserve respect, but the careful deserve trust." Miller smiled and shook the stone warrior's massive hand. And sometimes, being careful is the mightiest thing of all. Later, in his captain's log, Miller made his final entry about the mission. "They called us cowards because we took precautions. They mocked us because we prepared for the worst. But in the end, it was human caution that saved the day." Perhaps now the galaxy understands that there are many kinds of courage. Sometimes it roars like a warrior's battle cry. Sometimes it whispers like a safety check being completed. But courage is courage, no matter how quiet it seems. The Prudence is ready for its next mission. As always, we'll take it slow, be careful, and do things right. Because that's the human way. And now, it's becoming the galaxy's way too. Captain James Miller, signing off, after running 3 separate checks of this log entry, of course.